Hello, I'm Glenda Young, and absolutely thrilled to be doing this. I am an author. I'm published by Headline. I write two genres, historical sagas and cozy crimes. Um, I've got an agent, literary agent, Caroline Sheldon, who's in London, and I live in the Northeast. And I've only really started getting published professionally in the last maybe 8 or 9 years. And certainly the Aurora writing prize is definitely part of my writing life. I mean, that I can't express how much that the prize actually gave me the confidence, the self-assuredness that I knew I could write. As a huge Coronation Street fan, I started a Coronation Street fan website. And then in my mid 30s, as a very mature student, I started a degree in journalism at Sunderland University. And I did that because it had a module of creative writing. I mean, now you can do creative writing up to PhD, and part of that PhD is to actually do a novel. Back, more than 20 odd years ago, you could not do that. So I did the degree in journalism, knowing full well I didn't want to be a journalist, but did want to do creative writing. ITV got in touch and said they was really enjoying the fan site and asked me to update some of their official Coronation Street books. So as a fan, that was fantastic, a real opportunity. But while I was writing the Coronation Street books, I really wanted to create my own fiction. I just didn't know how. So I started writing short stories for women's magazines to see if I could actually tell a story and get it from start to finish with a story arc. And the women's magazine started publishing. And then one women's magazine, The People's Friend, asked me to write their first ever weekly soap opera. It's called Riverside. And I've been writing that since 2016. So this is about the time that I was writing darker stories as well, not for women's magazines. And one of those dark stories became the story that came second in the Aurora Prize. So the Aurora Prize really, it gave me so much confidence in myself that I could write a different genre. Yes, I could do the women's magazines. That was fantastic, and I was getting paid for that. And then I could do something else as well. So sometimes people ask me how I managed to write in the different genres, and it's just something that comes quite easily to me. But the Aurora Prize, it cemented that right at the very start of my sort of professional writing life. It gave me I can't express how much confidence it gave me. It was like, yes, I can do this. So honestly, if you're sitting there thinking, should I enter, then do it. On the back of Riverside, the weekly soap opera I was writing for The People's Friend, I got a literary agent in London who was really interested in my style of writing, and she said it was very much suit the historical saga market. I didn't know what a historical saga was. I'd never heard of them. And I wasn't sure at first because I thought it was kind of Catherine Cookson-ish. And because I'm from the Northeast, would people be expecting that sort of a book? And I thought, well, if that's where my writing is leading me, and this agent's had so much kind of belief in me, then that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to make it my own. And I'm going to set it in the village where I grew up in, which is the next coal mining community. And that's what I did. So I absolutely love writing the historical sagas and stepping back into the past. My agent is incredible. She sold my novel, my debut novel, before I'd even finished writing it. And we had 3 publishers fighting over it. The publisher I chose was Headline, and that was because they offered me a 3-book deal. The other publishers offered 2 books, Headline offered 3. So I chose Headline as my publisher, and I've been with Headline ever since. And I've had 8 sagas published with them and 3 cozy crimes. So it's great. I'm so enjoying what I'm doing, and I just can't express enough how grateful I am that my agent took that chance on me, and then Headline came forward. So I'd never heard of historical sagas, and the only kind of reference point really was Catherine Cookson books, because I'm from the Northeast as well and from a pit village, and I hadn't read them. Everyone up here knows about Catherine Cookson, but it's not my go-to genre, so I wasn't aware of the genre. What I decided to do was look at the basics. So it was you need a strong heroine set between the wars, a strong sense of place as well. And once I had those the building blocks of what a historical saga was, then I decided not to read anyone else's sagas, not even a Catherine Cookson. I made the historical sagas my own. I set them in the village that I grew up in, used my own kind of knowledge of my local area. So, and it's paid off. One review I got from My Weekly magazine said that I bring a freshness to the saga genre. And I think that is purely because I don't read other sagas. I know I'm hitting all the, I'm ticking all the boxes and I'm hitting all the milestones in sagas. There's got to be lots of emotion, lots of ups and downs, lots of upheaval. Just when you think the heroine's going to overcome that final obstacle, you plunge her back down before you might give her a happy ending. So I know I'm doing it right, fingers crossed, but I do it my way. And yeah, so I try not to look at other sagas because I don't want to be influenced. I want the sagas to be my own. So going out to do the research for the historical sagas is my favourite part. And then lockdown hit. Couldn't get out anywhere. Couldn't, libraries were closed. We all went through it. It was horrible. I could not leave the house most days. And I thought, Headline were waiting for me to turn another book in. And I thought, I can't do this. I need the authenticity of going out to do the research. And so Headline were really very gracious and allowed me to do another project. So in my head, I'd always had this novel, an idea for a comedy novel. And I thought, this is perfect. It's going to cheer me up through lockdown. I'll just, put the historical sagas to one side until this COVID thing is over. And there's a seaside town in Yorkshire called Scarborough. I think most people will know it. It's fantastic. It was the UK's first original seaside town. It's my happy place. I absolutely love it. So during lockdown, when I couldn't leave the house, I went to Scarborough in my head, in my imagination. And the first book stars 12 Elvis impersonators called Twelvis. And they go to Scarborough for an Elvis fan convention, but one of them ends up dead and has his blue suede shoes stolen. So I wrote this during lockdown. I was listening to Elvis every day. It would really cheered me up, and Scarborough was so much fun, and they had this cozy crime mystery to solve. Headline loved it, said, can we have a series of 3? Which was fantastic. So that's how I came to write sagas and cozy crimes alternately since lockdown. So the Elvis impersonators were the first book, and that's Murder at the Seaview Hotel. The second book goes back to my love of soap opera. It's called Curtain Call at the Seaview Hotel. And that's about a troupe of actors who turn up, and one of them is a real diva. The playwright is highly strung, and there's lots of tension behind the scenes. Somebody gets killed. The third book in the series is called Foul Play at the Seaview Hotel. It's about a team of obsessive crazy golfers who turn up in Scarborough for a crazy golf tournament, and they're determined to win by fair means or foul. And then the captain of their rival team ends up dead. So it's a lot of fun, but there's a murder to be solved. There's no gore. In cozy crime, you never have any blood or gore, but there's a lot of interaction with the characters. It's the characters that I really love. And again, as in the historical sagas that I write, there's a core group of very strong women who run the hotel, who work as a cleaner and the cook, and they are the ones involved in kind of solving the crime. I just love writing. They're so much fun. They almost write themselves because it's an absolute joy. Because it means disappearing to Scarborough in my head and going there for research too. Yeah, it's a challenge writing in different genres. I mean, sometimes during the course of a week I might write 2 or 3 different genres, but it's discipline. I mean, there's no shortcut to this. It is hard. You've got to be very organized, and I think what it comes down to is, right at the very beginning of my writing life, where I was writing short stories for women's magazines, you have to know the different magazines, because you can't submit one short story to 3-4 different magazines. You've got to write it specifically for one magazine, and which is different audience, different readership to another. Might be the younger audience, might be demographically different in some way. So that was a really good training ground. So even with a short story form for women's magazines, for instance, there are different genres within that and different audiences. So already you're crafting and you're learning how to pitch your work at different areas. And I think when I started writing short stories for writing competitions as well, again, you're aware of what the competition requires from you. Sometimes writing competitions have the past winners online, so you can actually see what type of stories have won already, so what the judges are possibly looking for again this year, or maybe they're looking for something different, who knows. So it is hard writing in different genres, but it's you've got to be very disciplined, and yeah, and I guess it's just hard work. I wish there was a shortcut, and I wish there was something to tell you that it's with a magic wand and you can write in different genres and it's that easy, but it's not. You do have to work at it. So my short story, All the Young Dudes, that won the second place in the Aurora writing competition. When I knew I was coming to do this interview, I reread it, and I hadn't read it since it won. I mean, it gets put away on the computer, and that's it. And I was actually shocked. I was shocked by how dark it was, and I think that's because it was written after David Bowie died. Now I'm a huge David Bowie fan. I'm sitting here with there's a whole bookcase there with Bowie books. Now after he died, I kind of was experiencing feelings and emotions that I didn't know what to do with, because he wasn't a family member, didn't know the guy, but I'd grown up with him, and all through my life, from as far back as I can remember, he was really important musically to me. So when he died, I was trying to process these emotions, and that's what went into All the Young Dudes, which is the title of a song that Bowie wrote. And yeah, so it's a really, really dark story. I mean, there's a murder in there, two schoolgirls, and one of them murders the other. And I had forgotten quite how horrendous it was. So it's a very dark story. But there's lots of light and shade through it as well. In fact, there's a little bit of humor, dark humor running through it too. So that's the inspiration. And I think if I can take anything from that, any advice that I can give to people is that write what you're feeling inside, any emotions, any passions that you've got, use those in your story. Don't try and write like anyone else. Just get it, what's in here, get it out and get it onto the page. The writing short stories for competitions, it means you step up your game a little bit. You're not just writing for the sake of it. You're not just writing because you fancy being creative for half an hour. You're writing because you want to win. So it's a competition. You want to be better than everybody else. You want the judges to pick your story. So up your game. And I can't express enough, just write from the heart. Don't try to copy anyone else. Don't try to be anyone but yourself. Only you you watching this knows what goes on in your head and knows how you can get that down onto paper. Be true to yourself more than anything else, and be true to your writing style as well. I think some of the challenges that we face as writers, especially with competitions, is that we think we're not good enough and there's no point entering because we're not going to win. Well, I came second, and if I keep saying this, but if I can do it, then you can as well. You watching this, you can do it. Just be honest with your writing style. Write something that only you can write, something from your own experience, maybe. Put your own emotions and your own feelings in. I think it's too easy to be trying to second guess all the time. What do the judges want? Because sometimes the writing competitions will tell you who the judges are. And so you might look at their genres that they're writing in and try to write something to please the judges. I would say forget about all of that. If your writing's good enough, genuine enough, and strong enough, it will please the judges no matter what you write. So if there's any advice I can give, it's to read the guidelines clearly and follow them, read the rules. You want to give your story every single chance of getting read. And just be true. Like I keep repeating myself, but just be true to yourself, and follow your heart with the story, and do what's right for you. Don't compare yourself to any other writers. Just do what's right for you. Yes, have a look to see who the judges are. Don't write to impress them. Write to impress yourself.